Hey everyone, so I've set myself up here in a situation where I've got to get height. You often find this sort of obstacle on the golf course, obviously, very common. So you get many times where there's something in the way. It's not always height, but it's often something to get over, like a pond or a bunker or something like that. And it's the intimidation of it and the psychological side of it that makes it difficult for people. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how to set the club up when you want to make sure you get height, and a little bit of the technique I'll show you from the other angles. So first of all, just to show you a couple of shots. If you're going to try this at home, obviously disclaimer, just make sure you don't have something that can rebound back at you. Don't want anybody doing that. And then just, if you're going to try it, put it as high as you like, but just not so close that the club is going to hit it, obviously, as you go through. So I'll show you a couple of shots first of all. So you can see there the ball's going over, no problem. I obviously know I'm going to hit those over, so therefore I'm not too nervous over it. But what you often find is you can tell when somebody's got something in the way because they try and lift the ball in the air more. So they often will stand there and they'll do a practice swing which looks like this, where they'll hit through like that, and then they'll step forwards to the ball and they'll sort of go like that and try, and you can see them trying to actually scoop the ball in the air. So it's partly understanding the movement and partly understanding how to put the club down on the ground. Most people, when they put the club down with a sand iron or a lob wedge, they don't sit it correctly. I'll show you exactly what I mean in a minute. So partly putting the club in the ground in the right place, and partly hitting through the shot rather than trying to scoop the ball in the air. So I'll also attach a couple of videos as a couple of close-ups of how the perfect pitch is struck, how the club actually strikes the ball, and how the loft of the club ball makes the ball go in the air rather than you trying to lift it. Everyone knows that, or most people know that, but most people don't demonstrate that they know it when they're actually playing the shot. So I'll show you from the other angle. So just looking at it from this angle, this is the best place to actually look at the technique with pitching, and what we're looking for is for you to feel as though you trust the loft of the club and hit through and brush the grass, and that will make the ball go in the air. So the technique, I'll show you in detail about where the club should sit and how you should lay it on the ground on a separate video, but just looking from here, what we're looking for is the ball position to be in the center of the stance, so that you feel as though it's like this, there, and then you weight just a little bit on your left side if you're a right-handed golfer, just leaning forwards towards your front foot, and then like that, and then as you swing the club back, it's primarily a hands and arms swing, so it's basically that sort of motion. So you can see my weight is still a little bit on my left side, and then as I go through, I just unwind onto my left side, a little bit of weight transfer, and brush the grass, let the loft of the club do the work for you. So hold your follow through position and really notice that, because that's the best clue you've got as to sort of what you've done right or wrong. So do a practice, hold the follow through, hit your shot, hold the follow through, see if it's the same. So if it will just show you from a decent lie, because if I had a bad lie I wouldn't attempt this shot if it was sitting down, because it's a lot more difficult to get height. So basically set myself up, weight on my left, and through. You can see where I finished, my weight is still on my left side there. So I thought I'd do this video from this angle, just because this is what you're going to see when you actually set up to the ball. So most people get this bit wrong, and it makes it difficult to hit the ball high, and it tends to make the club dig into the ground too much, which makes it really difficult. So when you set this lob wedge or a sand iron up behind the ball, it should look basically like that, or even like that a little bit. If when you look down it looks like that, that's what most people sort of tend to do. They push the handle forwards, they brought the leading edge of the club onto the ground instead of using the club, the flat of the club, the bounce of the club, and they've de-lofted it, they've turned it into a pitching wedge or even a 9-iron. So the ideal thing when you're looking for height is basically to sit the club like that, so that it's nice and square, or even very slightly open like that, and that will sort of help you to get the height. It also helps you to sort of use the bounce of the club, so that the sole of the club bounces on the ground rather than the leading edge of the club digging into the ground, as I say, which makes it a lot easier. So here are 3 pitch shots, and you can see all good views of how the club strikes the ball to get the loft. So you'll see each one, the club comes in low to the ground as it approaches. the sole of the club sort of glides along the ground, like bounces on the ground. The leading edge doesn't dig in, as you can see, and the loft of the club does the work. It gets the ball up in the air rather than it being an upward hit to do that. So you can see the ball goes up, club goes through, glides along the ground, and there's no scooping in it at all. So it's a really good way to understand that.